Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotion, and thank you again so much for our time together. It's a beautiful Lord's Day. We're looking forward to seeing you in services today as I teach you about the wrong kind of influences to allow to come into your mind. But right now, let me talk to you about what happens during economic hard times. Now, that's a strange thing to teach right now because the Philippines is so booming, but let's remember the lessons we learned years ago in the hard times, and let's remember that economies run in cycles. So let's learn the lessons that God wants to teach us. We find in Genesis chapter 47 the story of Joseph as he begins to be second in command only to Pharaoh in all of Egypt. We find that during the 7 good years, everybody else just lived good lives and lived extravagant lives in the season of abundance. Now that's the worst time to spend money in a season of abundance because everything has high prices. We have to learn what I call counterflow living. So when everybody else is spending money and everything's expensive, we should be sticking money in the bank. And then when everybody else is having to sell things because of an economic downturn, that's when we buy things. And that's exactly what Joseph did. In verses 14 to 22, Joseph collected all of their money for food. Then Joseph collected all of their livestock for food. Then Joseph collected all of their land for food. Then Joseph collected their lives as slaves for food. So that finally he says in verse 23, "Now that I have bought you and your land today for Pharaoh, here is seed for you so that you can plant the ground. But when the crop comes up, give 1/5 of it to Pharaoh. The other 4/5 you may keep as seed for your fields and as food for yourselves and your household and your children." I want you to notice that wealth never transfers in good times. Wealth always transfers in hard times. And by Joseph's wisdom, the wealth of an entire nation transferred to Pharaoh in the hard times. But I want you to see something else that took place. Jobs transfer in the hard times. There's always a land of Goshen that God has provided. God had set aside the most beautiful part of Egypt, a fertile land that was never affected by the drought. And God set that apart for the people of Israel. Now the reason that was set apart is that land belonged to Pharaoh, and it was used for Pharaoh's flocks. Now the beautiful thing that I want you to see here is that in Genesis chapter 46, Joseph tells his father, "Tell Pharaoh that you are a shepherd and that you take care of flocks." And he said he's going to send you to live in Goshen because Egyptians hate shepherds. They hate that job. They despise that job. Nobody wants to go do that job. And so he will send you to Goshen to take care of the flocks. And that's exactly what happened. The job that nobody else wanted in Genesis 46:34 is transferred to the people of Israel in Genesis 47 verse 6. And we find that the jobs nobody else wanted provided a Goshen, provided a place of abundance for them to be taken care of during economic crisis. And I want to challenge you today. In the economic hard times, learn that there are still jobs people don't want to do. Learn that there are still businesses that people think are beneath them. But understand, if you follow God into that, God will not only transfer wealth to you, God will transfer jobs to you and to your family. And by the time the entire famine was finished, the people of Israel had gotten very, very wealthy and had continued to multiply. And the families of the Egyptians had been put into ruin and into poverty by the famine. So you have to ask yourself the question, can I live counterflow? That's where it all begins. And secondly, am I willing to do what other people will not do? Jobs that other people don't like, will I be willing to do that? Will I follow God into not being ashamed of who I am, but do what I know how to do and watch God take care of you and prosper you while devastation flows all around you?